Episode of Birds of the Round Table. I'm your host, Shane Haff. Give me a follow on Twitter at Shane Haff NFL, joined by the usual crew. First up, we have David. Give him a follow on Twitter at David Neese PHL. David, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great, man. One more week before we're finally previewing postseason football, which is what we all want to get to.
Absolutely. Also joined by Ryan Reese. Give him a follow on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. Ryan, you sounded better in the pre-pod chat. Feeling better today. I don't know how
Yeah.
much the Eagles win has to do with that, but how you doing?
Oh, absolutely. An Eagles win always is good for the soul. Yeah, no, I'm a little bit better than I was on post game, but on my way to feeling pretty darn good. So.
Yeah, I got a comment here from Brett Eclipse already saying that we're at the final week of the regular season. Time flies. Yeah, it's like I still remember like it was yesterday, just the giddiness of getting through preseason and having actual NFL football to watch. And now there's one game left for a majority of NFL teams, and their season will be over. And the Eagles will not be among that number. They will be either the 2 seed or the 3 seed, and we're going to get into a discussion later about the strategy of how you choose to chase that. But before we get to Week 18, and again, we're not going to really preview Week 18 so much as just talk about how we would handle it and who we'd like to see in the playoffs. But let's get our takeaways from the Bills game. So let's start on the offensive side of the ball. The offense looks pretty good in the first half. They started with a 3-and-out, but they score at one point on 3 consecutive drives. Jake Elliott hits a 47-yard field goal in a monsoon, which maybe you feel a little better about Elliott after that. And then the wheels really come off of the offense in the second half. They only gain 16 yards in the entire second half. They go 3-and-out on their final 4 possessions, putting the defense in terrible spot after terrible spot. Ultimately they escape from the game. They get the win. Honestly, just because Josh Allen missed a wide open guy in the back of the end zone and Jalen Carter blocked an extra point. So crazily enough, this is the second game this season the Eagles have won because they've blocked extra points and field goals, which is just wild to think about. Like, what is the Eagles' record if, just these ridiculous things that you don't expect to happen didn't happen? And, you certainly probably feel quite a bit different about this season if you're sitting here going into this week and you're 9-7 instead of 11-5, and that comes down to Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis field goal extra point blocks. But we'll take it, and let's go into those offensive takeaways. So, Ryan, overall, how do you feel about the offense after this game? What did you notice?
Well, it's not so much the players; it's the mindset. It's clearly they were, able to score some points on the Buffalo Bills in the first half. It's just this mindset of like, oh well, we've done enough. 16-point lead, that's enough for our defense. And listen, it was. They got lucky by the slimmest of margins, but that mindset can't be continued into the playoffs. You don't get, there's no style points or there's no, whatever, but put the foot down on their throats and keep going. I understand that they want to play conservative, and I understand they don't want to play, turnover football. That's fine. But that doesn't mean you just completely stop your game plan offensively. You have to learn how to mix that conservative, turnover avoiding playing, but with also still being able to move the chains and getting into scoring positions. Because what's the point? So while I was happy in the first half, I somebody had texted me like, oh hey, blah blah blah, this is great, and I just said, well, you just wait. I've seen this show before, and sure enough, they did it again. So it's not necessarily the players. I thought they played great. It's just this. Hey, let's just play super conservative And the Bills knew that they were going to do the same, and they keyed up on it. So Sirianni, Patullo, whoever, cut the BS. Put your foot on their throat, and actually, you know, keep scoring.
Yeah. Yeah, and
We've seen too many teams come back. Playoffs, regular season, 30-point plus. It happens. It's rare, but it happens. So, just saying, there's no need for that crap, because once you stop playing offense, it's hard to ramp it back up, clearly, for this team.
yeah, and I mean I think the perfect, example of that is near the end of the first half. You're up 10-0. There's 18 seconds left. You have 2 timeouts, so you could call any play you want to. And you're down in the red zone, and on 3rd and 8, you throw a tight end screen on the perimeter. Not even like one of the clever tight end screens where he's in line, like that you've had success with in the past. You call a tight end screen for Devontae Smith and Jahan Dotson to lead block for, and Goddard's going to have to break 2 tackles to get a first. Like, nothing screams we're fine with a field goal more than that. And you kick the field goal to go up 13-10 or 13-0, and it's just like, oh, the game should be over. And turns out the game wasn't over, and just giving those points away, almost costs you in the end. So, part of me, especially if the Eagles are unable to get the 2 seed, part of me wishes they would have gone ahead and lost that game. So maybe the coaching staff would take learn some lessons from that game and just resting on their laurels with a lead. But they've already lost games against both the Broncos and the Cowboys doing the exact same thing this year, and they didn't learn from it. So I don't think it happening a 3rd time would probably do that either. But it's really frustrating to see the offense continue to do what it's doing. I mean, Brett Eclipse is talking over here in the comments about how, we said this game, maybe you use that as a confidence builder for the offense. And certainly there's rain that makes it hard to throw. It makes it easier on teams to play the run. But this was a bad run defense, and they just squandered that opportunity. And so I walk out of this game feeling far worse about the Eagles' offense than I did going into it. And that's where I ultimately land. Don't ever watch Kevin Patullo press conference, by the way. Like, just the most like word salad garbage nonsense that you'll ever hear. I went after some of his responses on Twitter, and I was like, oh, what's the point? Like, it's so everything he says is so dumb. And I get that coaches aren't going to tell you real things, but like, you can do a better job of telling us not real things that make you sound smart, and that's just not how it comes across. So, I firmly think going into the playoffs, if the Eagles defense gives up 20 points, I just don't hold out a lot of hope the Eagles will win football games. And that's a sad place to be in, but the Eagles do have a defense that makes that possible. So that's kind of where I was at. Oh, other thing I'm at offensively, I would consider just starting Brett Toth at center in the playoffs. Like, that's how bad I think Cam Jurgens has been down the stretch. I tweeted this out earlier, yesterday, I think. Out of 42 centers that have played at least 200 snaps this season, Cam Jurgens ranks 42nd out of 42 in blown block rate on run plays. So he is killing your rushing attack. And I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's hurt. I think he's been hurt all year. And I think the Eagles have mishandled that, and they probably should have been playing Toth a long time ago to let him get healthy. But as it stands right now, I just think your offensive line is better with Toth at center than it would be with Cam Jurgens. And we can talk about what that means for the future maybe on another show, because I do have concerns about these issues being chronic for Cam. But they won't make that move, but it's one I would definitely look at. So, David, what about you? What's your offensive takeaway?
I'll answer it in 2 parts. One, Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo, to a certain extent, they live at the center of this divide. People hate the way the offense looks. They hate his demeanor, his decisions. But in this game, it was raining sideways. It was cold. They beat a team who were 28-4 since 2022 at home. Like Ryan mentioned, style points don't matter. Winning does. The Eagles survived, even if the way they got there made people uncomfortable. But, the second half offense, pretty much the whole season is just historically bad slash conservative. And it's fair to be alarmed that the Eagles failed to complete a pass in the second half for the second game this season. No other team in the NFL can say that. It's football malpractice on paper, yet they somehow won both games, which is what Sirianni and them are going to point to. And that's where the argument, kind of begins. An optimist sees a team that can win even when its offense goes in ghost mode for an entire half, which, to them speaks to the resilience and knowing how to win in multiple ways. And I don't think a lot of that's going to change. The offense, I mean, there were routes in this game in the second half. It was like Jalen Hurts was neutered. There were two-man routes. There was just, nothing. The hitch routes came back. But what else came back was breaking the huddle late. And they're not going to revamp this offense. But what they can do, which is something, mentioned by Sirianni, is mastering the things that take no talent. Well, breaking a huddle doesn't take too much damn talent. And it's an offensive killer because it strips the quarterback of control, which is something he kind of alluded to when he answered Jeff McClain, where it sounded like Hurts doesn't quite have the autonomy that many of us thought he did in that huddle. But the disadvantages just pile up quickly. When a team breaks the huddle with 6 to 8 seconds left, he has no time to read the defense properly. He cannot identify coverage. Defenses intentionally wait to reveal these looks, and the Eagles just help them by getting in there with no time, and it just puts pressure on themselves. And the result is that the offense effectively runs plays blindly. And Patullo basically admitted that. We just ran Durant. I mean, it eliminates the ability to change the play. You can't audible, you can't do checks, you can't kill the play, as all of that requires time. You can't scan the defense, you can't communicate changes, you can't reset the protection, which is something Hurts, has the responsibility of now. And when there is, no kill, no alert, and no change in protection, the quarterback is basically forced to run directly into unfavorable looks, such as overloaded boxes and or blitzes. And protection, like I mentioned a second ago, that depends on all of that too. A late huddle leads to rushed identification. That's how free rushers appear in the backfield on almost every snap. And, they don't have to get sacks, but they're wreaking havoc. And the Eagles also, they can't run motion. They're not identifying if the teams are in man or in zone because they don't have time to do any of this. So if they're going to correct anything, that's what they can correct that would actually make a difference going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and even, I mean, they had a play in this game where they ran motion and they identified man coverage, but they ran slant flat, and then on the backside they had Jahan Dotson and Devontae Smith lead blocking for Dallas Goedert on a bubble screen, and I saw there. I won't drop names, but a guy on Twitter that's just always very critical of Jalen Hurts tweeted that clip during the game and is like, so "This is just what Hurts does. He thinks it's man. He locks onto the matchup, and that's all. That's what he's throwing no matter what before the snap." And then the all 22 comes out, and it's like, that plays AJ or bust because you can't come backside to Goddard because you've already got you got guys blocking downfield. Like that play, it's literally, we know 100% it's man coverage. Let's call one route that beats man coverage, and if it doesn't win, we're screwed. And that's the Kevin Patullo experience, and I cannot wait for him to be somewhere else next year. And I hope they make that move. But I've been saying that since October, and that's just where we are. So, Brett Eclipse said, "Can we have fun for like 5 seconds and rave about the defense?" Absolutely. That's where we're headed next. So, started with the offensive takeaways, so we can end talking about the defense.
Right.
And defensive takeaways is what an awesome performance by the defense. And sure, I can get where people are frustrated with the whole, they needed a stop at the end and they couldn't get it. And it's not the first time that's happened. But I think what people miss in that is the cumulative effect of 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out on a defense. And they're eventually going to wear down. And so the defense played phenomenal for 3 quarters, and then they fell apart. And they largely fell apart. They didn't fall apart because they got out adjusted. They didn't fall apart because, they got out schemed. They fell apart because they were exhausted. And your offense has to give you something there. But really encouraging performance by the defense because, while the Bills don't have a lot of good position or skill players, Josh Allen's incredible. You could argue the best quarterback in the NFL. He's inarguably top three. And James Cook has been super effective this year with their offensive line, and it's a good offensive line. And they were able to pressure Allen. They were able to play really good defense. So really encouraging performance from the defense. David, what's your top defensive takeaway?
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, the Eagles went 3-and-out, maybe the last 4 drives of the game.
Yeah,
which,
4 in a
which,
row.
which coincides, with all the points coming from Buffalo. They were exhausted. They were constantly on the field. And TOP, if you look at that from a game standpoint, it's a little doesn't really reveal the true story there, because it was the way all the 3-and-outs were in that fourth quarter that just did them in. But the positive side is, like a guy like Jalen Phillips, who thank goodness wasn't more hurt when he walked off that field. He has just been just a perfect fit. The Eagles have shut down everybody basically since they got him, and they've shut down good offenses for the most part with him. And I think they're only given up since week 10, like the last 7 or 8 weeks, 14 points a game, something like that. And that's what they're going to have to put their hat on as they head into the playoffs, because they're going to need a little bit from their offense. But if they can just get probably 17 to 24 points a week, they probably can win this thing. But it's asking a lot of this defense to keep pitching shutouts. But I love the hustle. Just to pick a few guys here, Jahad Campbell on that fumble recovery. My goodness, his burst going down the field. I mean, he left Bond, who was also going for the ball, in the dust. I mean, it was insane watching that. Quinyon, it's just amazing. And Adoree Jackson, today, because of the news, the Cowboys release a corner. Everybody's Eagles, Eagles, Eagles. Man, Diggs is nowhere near as good as what Adoree Jackson's been doing these last few weeks.
Not to mention so much, and you've seen it with Marcus Epps, so much of this defense works with route distributions and complex matching rules and knowing what the guy next to you is going to do. Even if Diggs was a better player than Jackson, which...
Too late, right.
You can't bring a guy in and start him for the first time in the playoffs like that. Like, even if he was an improvement, and I don't think he is.
No, I don't either. And you hit the nail on that. That's the difference with a competent coach. They know their assignment. They know the scheme. Like you said, it's complex. Mm-hmm. And that's why Fangio is so big on, if you don't practice, you're not getting on that field, because it is just imperative that they know all of that. And that's, I guess, what's frustrating is this team is like yin and yang. I mean, they have a shutdown defense that, is relying on skill players basically to outsmart a dog crap scheme. And they've been doing that for years. The scheme hasn't changed as much as a lot of people think. I know you guys know that because you watched the film, but it's just worse. It's just called worse. It's sequenced worse. They're doing it at a historic pace. And also, like Shane mentioned, the O-line, I mean, they're running 60 yards less per game average this year because of that O-line. And that was a cheat code for Kellen Moore. You can say he was a genius. You can think whatever you want. But when you can just keep running Saquon Barkley for 2,005 yards in a season, you're going to have a pretty good offense that season. And, they don't have that advantage this year. It's just everything's leaky. Cam Jurgens, like you said, he has been hurt since week 1. He probably shouldn't have been out there. Landon Dickerson probably shouldn't have been out there. And he came back early again when he got hurt the second time, shouldn't be out there. Without Landon Dickerson playing good, Mailata's not up to task this year. I mean, he's a good player, but this is one of the weakest you've probably seen him. He's struggled some this season. But on the plus side, to try to keep some optimism, is Lane Johnson. He could be back now. He's going to be back for the playoffs. And you better hope that they can run a lot to the right and get a lot more protection, because that's going to be what's going to have to save the offense here, because the coaching staff isn't going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point on the drop off from the defense in the second half, the Bills, I'll say it this way: the Eagles' defense was on the field for 48 snaps in the second half. Ugh. The Eagles' offense was on the field for 18 snaps. And so it's just a war of attrition at that point. And we had another comment over here talking about the defensive line popping off. This one was from Next Gen Stats, but The Eagles have 18 sacks in the last 4 games with a 4-man rush, which is 7 more than any other defense in that same time span. So the defense is picking up, the pass rush is picking up, and that's really good to see as you move into playing playoff football. So, Ryan, what's your top defensive takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, you guys already pretty much nailed it, but yeah, I just thought, yeah, our front four has been getting after the quarterback at a great rate at this point, and you're right. I think it all started, with Phillips coming in and kind of fitting into his own here. But yeah, I also want to give a shout out to Jahad Campbell, who again stepped in for Nakobe Dean against a very good run offense in Cook and the Bills, and held him to pretty conservative numbers. I think only 70 plus yards on the ground. Yeah, honestly, this defense, I think it's David, you were kind of alluding to it, but it was like the last 6 or 7 weeks. They're the lowest scored upon defense. So again, that's certainly something you want to have going into the playoffs. And while the offense is a hit or miss depending on which half or which game or whatever. You're right though. I think if the offense can get you 20, I believe in this defense to be able to stop any team from scoring 20 points plus. So
Do you think they're the most dangerous team in the NFC?
I think yes, in a way, because I think a lot of people are kind of laughing at the offense and not realizing that not to say that they don't realize that the defense is playing well. I just think, when you look at this team and the identity of this team, you look at the offense first. And I think, that's not really the case anymore. I think this has now become a stud defense with an underperforming offense. But with the potential of that offense to get going and start clicking, because the talent is still obviously there. And, if they maybe get their foot out of their own what's, maybe they can actually open this offense and not be so scared and score some points. So I think right now, especially considering that they'll have at least a home game regardless of what happens, and it's going to be a tough opponent, and we'll talk about that shortly. But yeah, I think this team could be one of those sneaky, like, oh man, I didn't really think the Eagles had it in them kind of thing. But their defense is going to absolutely carry them, and I think they're going to go up against a couple of really good offenses in this playoffs, especially early, and they have a potential to really do something historic, especially going up against some of these offenses. So.
All right, well, let's go to our players of the game, and then we'll talk a little bit about those upcoming opponents. So, David, Ryan and I had a crack at this on post game, so I'll give you first crack here. Who is your player of the game from this one?
I'll just give it to Jalen Carter. I think the way he came back after 4 weeks of not playing, I just think it was amazing what he was able to do. Ryan and I on the show last week said if there was one of the two, Lane or Jalen, who had to come back just to get some reps in, we'd both pick Jalen Carter. And my goodness, it didn't look like he'd missed a week. He looked great. On the downside of that is you almost forget about Jordan Davis again. It's kind of wild. But Moro Ojomo had just a great game. Jalix Hunt was just outstanding in this one. I think you could give it to any of those guys, but I'll just give it to Jalen Carter just for coming back, the way he did and setting the tone like that after being out a month was just pretty impressive. Because I just historically, you kind of think it's just going to take him a week or two to get, back into football shape, but it did not.
No.
Yeah. All right, so Jalen Carter from David. Ryan, who's your player of the game?
I'll stick with Cooper. I don't want to be flip floppy or changing. Yeah, 'cause I thought Cooper DeJean was absolutely all over the place, sideline to sideline, making tackles. Um, we obviously talked about it on the post game, but his play during that fumble recovery that wasn't actually a fumble, unfortunately, where the lineman was about to pick up the ball and he just absolutely shoves the dude. Not only was it just hilarious, it was super smart because everybody just goes for ball. And he was just like, nah, I got this. He just shoved the dude out of the way. No, I just thought this is one of his better games of the year.
Yeah. I don't even remember who I said on post game. Did I say Bond?
No, who did you say?
I can't remember who I said. But whoever I said,
Cam
I'm gonna.
Jurgens.
I didn't say Cam Jurgens. That's for darn sure. I didn't even need all 22 to say that one, but I'll go Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips had a 20% pressure rate in this game. Led the team with 7 pressures. Also had 3 defensive stops. Thankfully, not seriously injured because that would have been really bad. But thought he played really well too. So, which I don't think is a coincidence either. That you get Jalen Carter back, and immediately Jalen Phillips has the best game that he's had in a month. And because those guys play off of each other, and that's just how defensive line play works. So I'll give mine to Jalen Phillips. Brett Eclipse says that thinks I did say Phillips on the post game. I may have.
You may have. It's
Yeah,
certainly
I probably either said Phillips or Bond. I can't remember for sure.
You probably said Jalen. I mean, you have like a 1 in 8 shot of being right. So
Yeah. So all right. Well, we are not going to preview week 18. I think it's pretty clear from what Nick implied that they will not be playing starters in this game. However, we're going to talk about this. So if the Eagles win and the Bears lose to the Lions, which the Lions are absolutely going to be trying to beat the Bears, even though it doesn't matter, then the Eagles would have the 2 seed. If the Eagles lose, or if they win but the Bears also win, the Eagles are the 3 seed. So basically, what is before the Eagles is play your starters for a chance at the 2 seed, or you go the backups. Now, if you get the 2 seed, you're going to face off against the Packers, who have dropped 3 straight games. Their defense has looked really bad. That's far and away the preferred matchup for the first round of the playoffs. It is also going to guarantee, as long as you win, that you host a second round matchup. Whereas as the 3 seed, you may or may not get to host a second round matchup. So you're potentially playing for an extra home game. You're playing for an easier first round spot. If you end up as a 3 seed, you will face either the 49ers or the Rams in the first round. So first things first, David, how would you approach playing starters in this game? Are you playing them? Are you resting guys? How would you handle that?
I do think the 2 seed is valuable enough to try to win. I do think it's important. I don't think I can see the coin on both sides here. I see the argument to both ways, but I would play to have the 2 seed. I would play to try to get 2 home games. I would probably scoreboard watch. Like if it's Bears 21-3 with 7 minutes left in the third quarter, yeah, I'm pulling everybody that I can. But I'm going into the game to try to win. And a lot of people will talk about, do you think Tanner McKee can beat the Commanders? Yes, I do. I do think that. So, and I think that's what they think, and probably why that we're going to see what we're going to see. If I was going to rest players, I would probably rest more on the defensive side of the ball, because I want the offense out there trying to fix some of these problems. I want to see more reps from them. So if you want to give Jalen Carter the day off, Jalen Phillips the day off since he came up gimpy, go ahead and see if you can win that way. But I think I would lean more towards that. But yeah, I'm still trying to win the game. I mean, we saw what happened last year as the 2 seed. If Seattle's the 1, and all it takes is for them to just get bumped like the Lions did.
Seattle can't be the 1 now. I think they are locked into the 5.
Seattle?
No, they're playing. They're playing.
Oh no, that's right. Sorry.
It's the Rams.
The
That
Yeah,
are
the Rams are
that don't
out.
have a shot.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying that backwards. Sorry. Never mind. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So Seattle with who's their quarterback? Darnold.
Yeah.
Darnold, yeah.
Yeah. I like the odds that the Eagles get 3 home games again. If it takes one upset like it did last year. Commanders went into Detroit and bumped them. And Seattle likely to face a division opponent in the divisional round. So, who knows them well, and those games always can go either way. So I do think it's worth trying to get the definite second home game and a really good potential at all 3.
Yeah. So there's not a chance for the Eagles to face Seattle. That's what I had in my head.
Yeah,
So
right.
The Seahawks are either the 1 or the 5. They can't be
Right.
the 6 or they can't be the 6. That's what I had in my head when I was saying they're locked into the 5. The lowest they can be is the 5. So
Right.
just point of clarification there. So okay, Ryan, what about you? How would you play? How would you approach it?
It is always a tough situation, but yeah, and it sucks too that the fact that we're playing at the same time as the Bears Packers. But honestly, why not play the offense? I'm okay with starting or for sitting the defense, but why not play, the offense? One, you get a little bit more chance to, whatever, figure out what the heck's going on. And it's not like they play a full game anyway when they're even in there. So take them out at halftime, let Tanner McKee and Cooper and Tank Bigsby do their thing.
Yeah. You bench the offense at halftime every week anyways, so just bench them on the
exactly.
sideline
That's
instead
what
of
I'm
on the field.
Right. So it's not like this way they're off the field and they can't get hurt. So I'd say play the offense for a half, sit the defense the entire game. Either way, it's I agree. I think the 2 seed would be very huge.
Yeah.
And as David is saying, geez, I don't think my wallet can recover from another 3-game playoff like last year. But I'd be sure fun to try. But let's go for the 2 seed, honestly, because I think the Packers are coming in angry, and they want to take down the Bears. So I could easily see it happening. It's just
The Lions want to take down the Bears.
Sorry, the Lions.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. So I 100% think the 2 seed is worth chasing because Green Bay is such an easier matchup than either San Fran or Los Angeles.
That alone.
And setting that aside, the offense hasn't played well enough to have earned a week off. Like, you can't come off of that second half performance and then just not play and then you're in a playoff game. I think that's a bad idea. So I'm playing starters. I'm not bringing Lane Johnson back for this game. Like,
yeah.
And as I mentioned, I'm starting Brett Toth over Cam Jurgens, although that's at this point less of a protect Cam Jurgens thing and more of a protect Jalen Hurts thing, to be honest. Yeah. And I mean, I would alter some things in my play calling. Like, I'm probably going to give Tank Bigsby like half of the carries at running back. I'm absolutely not calling a Jalen Hurts designed run or a read option in the whole game. But I'm still going to play the starters, and I'm going to try to get up, and I'm going to try to get guys out. And defensively, if you want to, I would rest Phillips if he's gimpy. I'm not bringing N'Kobe back, and maybe you sit some other key guys, or maybe you play him, you just rotate them more for the guys that are rotational, your defensive linemen and things. But I'm absolutely playing starters, and I'm trying to go get the 2 seed. And if you're scoreboard watching and it becomes apparent that, man, the Lions are losing 21-0 in the first half, I'm going to get everybody out and call it good. But the offense needs to go put up a good performance, and that's irrelevant of seeding for me. So that's how I would approach it, at least. There is a small part of me that wants to just be like, just don't play Hurts so you don't risk him getting hurt. but play the other starters and put Tanner McKee in there just because it'd be fun to see McKee with weapons instead of the preseason garbage.
Oh,
But that would start
see,
so many
yeah, I
storylines
was
that I
gonna
don't.
say that would be just a snowball going
Yeah,
down the
it
mountain,
would.
and just it would crush us all.
Just
So that's exactly what they're going to do.
what I don't want to see is it just be a preseason game where it's McKee with wide receivers 5, 6, and 7 behind an all backup offensive line, and it's just an unwatchable football. That's what I don't want to see. But anyway, so I think we're all in agreement we would like to see Green Bay. So if the Eagles end up as the 3 seed, who is the preferred opponent for you guys? Would you rather host San Fran or host Los Angeles?
It's tough because you look at San Fran, and with all the injuries they've had and everything going on, you're like, how are they still able to, put up these points but their defense is pretty suspect. Most of the injuries have happened on their defense, and they're absolutely letting up points at historic rates at this point. So there is that. You look at the Rams, and the Rams have a good mix of offense and defense, and can kind of pour it on offensively, can shut it down defensively. So I think they're more of a complete team. Plus, I don't know, there's something to be said about the fact that we've played them a lot recently. Last year in the playoffs, you have a lot of people, with hurt feelings on the Rams that, might, use that as motivation and or to do something stupid. But all in all, I'm going to say San Fran because I think their defense allows our offense to score enough points, and then it will be up to the defense to have the greatest challenge to stop McCaffrey and Kittle and Brock Purdy, who's been playing at a really good rate.
All right. David, what about you? Which of those teams would you rather face?
Yeah, that's easy for me. I'd rather face the 49ers. I've thought the Rams were the biggest threat to the Eagles since the preseason. It comes down to quarterback. Stafford is just a really great quarterback. You saw what he did in a loss against the Falcons the other night, like when they were trying to desperately get down the field. I mean, he almost single-handedly got that team down there to win the game or tie it. Again, at the end, we saw it in the divisional round last year in the snow when Saquon busts the touchdown. Everybody's cheering, thinks it's game over. Nope, he comes right back down the field. And if it wasn't for a Jalen Carter sack, he may have come back and won that game too. He's the one I'm most scared of all the 6 other quarterbacks in the playoffs. He's the guy. Purdy doesn't scare me. And I just watched the Bears put up, 40 points on the 49ers. There was 40 points each. Bears and the Niners both gave up basically 40 points, 42-38.
Yeah.
So, I'll take my chances with that defense over the Rams, who I think are really good. I think Sirianni's undefeated against McVay. I think we're like 4-0 or something. And eventually, you keep betting on red or black on a roulette table. Eventually, the other color hits at some point. So they just scare me a little bit more than actually anybody else. I'd rather play anybody of the other 6 teams than the Rams.
Yeah.
Kind of agree.
Yeah, I'm with you. The Rams are the team I would least like to face in the entire playoffs. And I just think, obviously, San Francisco's offense has been phenomenal lately. If you look at EPA stats since week 10, San Francisco is number 1. The Rams are number 3. So you're facing a great offense either way. If you look at defenses, the Rams are 16th. The 49ers are 23rd. So there's not a ton of separation there either. I just think, you look at McVay and Shanahan. I think they're 2 of the best designers in the league. And so then you look at the weapons. The 49ers have Christian McCaffrey. They've got George Kittle. They've got, all of these weapons on their offense. You look at the Rams. They've got Puka Nacua. They've got Devontae Adams, who should be back by then. So I'm going to call weapons a wash. I'm going to call coaching almost a wash. But then you look at Brock Purdy versus Matthew Stafford, and no slight to Brock Purdy. I think he's playing great. I've always thought he's more of a product of the system than, it's clear that Matthew Stafford is not, but I would rather face Purdy than Stafford is what it comes down to for me. I do think their defense is also quite a bit worse than the Rams, although they might get Fred Warner back. But yeah, it's easy for me that I would rather play the 49ers. And I do think that's the likely outcome, by the way, because if the 49ers lose on Saturday to the Seahawks, so the Seahawks get the 1 seed, then basically the Rams just need to win, and they would have the 5 seed. And they obviously would want the 5 seed because they basically get a bye because they get to play against the NFC South winner.
Right.
And they play Arizona. So, like, if they try, they should win that game. Of course, you would think that they just lost to Seattle or to Atlanta. But I would imagine that the likely opponent for the Eagles, if they are the 3 seed, is going to be the 49ers. So I think that's probably what they'll get. I hope that's how the Rams approach it if it comes down to that, because that is who I would like to play. So, all right. I think that is going to about cover it for this episode. We will be back next week. I cannot promise we will break down this Week 18 game if no starters play, but we will be previewing a playoff matchup, and we will know who they are playing, so we won't have to speculate about that. So that'll be a lot of fun. Before we get out of here, let's go final thoughts and plugs. David, I'll throw it to you first, man. The floor is yours.
I'll just say one thing about the seeding. I definitely want the 2 seed, but if the Eagles end up with the 3 seed, the first time the Eagles won the Super Bowl, they were the 1 seed. The second time they won the Super Bowl, they were the 2 seed. So let's just get the 3rd seed and make it the 3rd time with the 3rd seed. Just keep this thing going.
All right. Ryan, what about you?
I like that. I never thought about it like that, but that was pretty good. I don't believe a Football Smack Talk show will be on tomorrow. Got my co-host Eric is traveling, so most likely will not be on. Otherwise, I'll be sitting at home watching the game as I sold my tickets a while ago. As I always know, the last home game, especially if it's the last game of the year, is always going to be one of those where, most likely it's not a good game. So, go Birds, and you know what? Regardless of whoever we end up playing, I think we're battle tested. We've been there before. We know exactly what it takes to win, even if it's just by this much sometimes. But I have confidence that they'll be able to win a couple of games here and make things interesting. So.
All right. Well, for my final thoughts, I'm just going to rapid fire a couple questions. Brett Eclipse asked earlier, and I forgot to get back to it, that I had pointed out earlier in the year the Eagles really struggled to defend the run against condensed sets, and asked if they'd gotten better at that. And the truth is we don't know, because they haven't really played a team that does that much since the Bears game. So we're going to find out, because all 3 potential first-round opponents they're going to face run a ton of condensed sets. And so do the Bears. So, you're going to see that all over the NFC playoffs. So we will find that out in 2 weeks, regardless of who they play. Hopefully they've gotten better at it. Also had a comment from Davey asking if you'd rather have Kevin Patullo or Brian Johnson. And I answered emphatically Brian Johnson, to which he followed up a question here that I didn't respond to yet. But he said, how can you say Brian Johnson is the far better choice? They both scare me. I think the thing is, Brian Johnson coordinated a top 10 offense until the fatal flaw was discovered, and that was that they didn't know how to beat 0 blitzes. They know how to do that now. Kellen Moore taught him. I'm not convinced. He was a fine coordinator, I think, except for his inability to problem solve that specific schematic issue. That there'd probably be another one that would come up, but if you tell me right now I could swap him out for Kevin Patullo, I would do it in a heartbeat, because the answers aren't so simple with Patullo. But
right. Yeah.
That's my take on that whole thing. But But that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys for joining us for Birds of the Round Table. We really appreciate you tuning in. Those of you that are used to watching Chalk Talk directly after, Mark and I already recorded that. We did it yesterday. So if you've missed us live, it is in the podcast feeds. It's on YouTube, wherever you want to stream that. But we were trying to get that one done a little earlier this week. So no show directly after this, but it's there for your enjoyment. Be sure you're following these guys. Follow the network. Hit the subscribe button. Eagles Pinpool Network, wherever you get your podcasts. That really helps us out. David is on Twitter at David Neese PHL. Ryan is at Philly Sports PSA. I am at Shane Heff NFL. And we will catch you guys next time. Go Birds.
Go Birds.